Okay, welcome back. Today we're doing brake pads on my 1974 Saab Sonett 3. And fact of the matter is the entire brake system likely needs some serious attention on this car. Really a ground up replacement and rebuild of the major systems is in order. The caliper on this side is getting very sticky and it likely needs to be rebuilt. The other side would make sense to do at the same time. The master cylinder on this car as well is a little sticky and gunked up and just old. I've already replaced a section of rusty brake lines, and the rear brake shoes, wheel cylinders, I don't think even do anything at this point. So the whole thing needs a good going over, but like these brake pads, most of the system on this car is made from unobtainium. The parts simply just don't exist. In fact, these pads I had to buy off eBay are new old stock that looks like they're straight out of the 70s, and they likely are. There's no date. But you'll see, at first glance, the pads look pretty normal. But if you can get a real close look, you'll see there's this strange there's a strange wedge shape on these pads. You can see that. And as far as I know, there isn't a third-party manufacturer. There's no aftermarket option for these. You either have to have them shipped from Europe for $125, or you have to find some new old stock. I happen to find, by chance, this set off of eBay for under 30 bucks, so I felt pretty lucky. So since I have a bird in the hand, I'm gonna throw them on, and I'm not gonna really spend the time or the money on what is frankly still a shitbox Saab. I just want to drive it and have a little fun. I don't want to blow all my cash and all my time trying to go through replacing the brake system on a car that's still just kind of crappy. So I've got it up in the air today. I'm just going to do the brake pads. Fingers crossed, nothing else, pops up as we go through this. And here's to a simple job. Let's get back on the road. All right, let's take a little closer look now that I got the wheel off of what we got going on here. You can see there is a little bit of brake pad material left on the outside pad, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to see, but it looks like I've caught it just in time, and you probably can't see it. I'll pull them off here in a minute and show you, but there's just not much left on the inside pad, and that's probably because that caliper is a little sticky. While I'm in here, you can see I got a little tube here, a little tube on the bleeder screw. Anytime I do brake pads, I really like to try to crack that bleeder screw loose. Those can seize pretty easily, and they're soft, and they strip off real easy. And if you got a problem with that bleeder screw, you're pretty much done with the caliper. So I try to crack those loose as often as I can just to keep them moving. And this also gives me an opportunity to bleed a little bit of the brake fluid out, get some fresh brake fluid in there. It also makes it a little bit easier to collapse the piston. So I've got that cracked loose already. I'll loosen it just a touch more to let some of the fluid go. So I was pretty thankful that it came loose pretty easily. I didn't strip it, I didn't break it, and that's a good sign, definitely a good sign. Next step, we're going to, this is the first time I've done this, so I'm kind of learning here. I haven't looked at any instructions, we're just gonna wing it today. And it looks like there's some cotter pins here that we will pull out. The new pads actually came with the cotter pins as well. So I feel pretty lucky that I've got new cotter pins. That's pretty sweet. And it looks like maybe a little retaining clip that comes out. And if all goes to plan, I assume that the pads just slide out the back. So let's give it a shot. Maybe that's how it works. And that'll make things pretty easy. I'm gonna go ahead and leave the rotors. They're not perfect, but no major grooves, no major loose defects that I can find on the calipers. They run pretty straight. There's no wobble or distortion. They obviously are a little bit old and rusty. I could have them turned. I assume they look pretty thick, but that'll be for another day. So let me see how I can do on the removal of these pads. All right, it's letting out a little brake fluid, so that's a good sign. We'll let that kind of bleed out some. See if I can put a little pressure on that piston. Don't know if there's a appropriate spot to crank on that, but let's just try maybe get these pins out. Well, that was easy. Let's see about this back one. Let's see. Bend these back in place. That brake fluid's starting to come out. Looks pretty yellow. So I did top it off when I got the car, but could be very old. That looks nice. I think I can reuse that. It's a little rusty, but still intact. You can see that caliper. I probably should clean that rust off that piston before I shove it back in there. You know, just considering it needs to be rebuilt anyway, I'm just gonna spray it off, shove it back in there, pray for the best. Yep, that's not gonna clean off very well anyway. So that's gonna need a whole new. It's too bad. It's pretty rough. All right. Actually, that pad doesn't look too bad. Let's see if we can get it out of there and take a closer look. You can see that piston's out pretty far though. Where can I get my screwdriver? Might have to get out C-clamp. Maybe I should have done a little research, huh, before I dove into this. There's probably a technique that I just don't know. Oh, maybe I get it. Maybe I did get it. That came out pretty easy. All right, so in this case, it looks like that inside section of the pad is pretty low. But you can see that wedge looks like it goes to the top. Let's see if we can get a little bit more pressure on that piston. Hey, there we go. And that one's in about the same shape, so I think I got it just in time. Still quite a bit of pad up here, but pretty low, but no exposed metal. So I consider that a win. Rotates a little, so I guess that's why it's a wedge shape. I guess I could have gone a lot longer, actually. So it's hinged at the bottom, and as the pads wear, well, that's pretty interesting. The caliper rotates in onto the thicker part of the pads. That's pretty nifty. I wonder if there's a little bit of lubrication I can get in there to help that move a little better. Now to figure out if I have to remove the caliper to get that piston to collapse the rest of the way. Maybe I'll put this back in. Oh, all right. So the inside, the fat part goes down, and on the outside, the fat part goes up. I hope I get that right coming back on there. So, I wonder if I could put a clamp on there. All right. Take a break here. I'm gonna see how I can get that piston back in. Fingers crossed it actually goes back in with all that nonsense on there. All right. All right, after much struggle trying to get that piston to retract, my genius son reminded me that we should try to relieve the brake pressure. And so I cracked that bleeder valve and the piston just went right back in. Easy as pie. I was trying to remove the caliper. I was trying to twist the caliper out of the way so that I could get some pressure on that piston. Well, it turns out it's way simpler than that. You just gotta crack that bleeder valve. Don't know if that's because there's a check valve in the system somewhere that won't let the pressure go back into the master cylinder, or more likely my master cylinder's jacked up and it won't let the pressure go back in. But I didn't do any homework on the brake system on this car, so it could be any of the above. Most likely it's broken because that's my luck. The only thing left now is just to reinstall the new brake pads, the new pins and the clips. Took me a little bit to figure out this wedge shape to get them to go in the right direction. So I'm gonna get everything kind of cleaned up one more time. We're gonna put grease, some little brake grease on all the bits and pieces, put the pins back in. Going to check the brake pressure and get it all, the wheel back on, and move on to the other side.